GearNetwork.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is powered by our Amazon affiliation. That's right, we're back on the Amazon train. If you go to GearNetwork.com under the Support the Shows banner, click the Amazon link. It will take you directly to your Amazon account, and you can do all of your Christmas shopping, holiday shopping, or regular shopping there. If that doesn't work, click on any one of the banners you see on GearNetwork.com. It will take you to Amazon as well. Using our banners, using our links, helps power this podcast in a way that we appreciate very much. So again, GearNetwork.com, click on any one of the banners to shop Amazon and support this podcast.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network. You're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast on the Gear Radio Network.
And with that, we welcome you to Better Live Than Dead, the podcast powered by BetterLiveThanDead.com and the Gear Radio Network. This is episode number 152.
152. I like it.
It is the NFL Week 9 cast, and you can hear us on BetterLiveThanDead.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. I am Ryan Wolfe at Wolfe BLTD, joined on the IndyCard Media Hotline by the man himself, Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez on Twitter. Lewis, how you doing today?
Yay, man. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you very much. We are, you can listen to us everywhere at this point.
Yeah, John is doing a great job at IMJC Money. John's doing a great job making sure we get as many places as we possibly can, and that way people can't say they can't hear us. They've got right. A spot, and they've got no excuses.
Good job, John.
Hell yeah, good job to John Wright. Shut up, John. Anyways, more sports to talk about here on the Better Live Than Dead podcast this week. As we did last week, we're going to talk about some other sports aside from football. I know this is kind of been a football-centric podcast, but some big other sports news has happened in the world of baseball. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Then we'll get back to football. We'll talk some football. But, Lewis, right. without further ado, our three big things brought to you by FortunePhoto.com. As mentioned, we're going to talk about other sports. We're going to talk about Major League Baseball. The Washington Nationals. They complete the improbable. They win the 2019 World Series. Now, hear me out on these stats here, Lewis. It's the first championship in the franchise's 51-year history, the Expos and Nationals. They should have won in 1994, let's be honest. The first championship for a major league franchise in Washington since the 1924 Senators, who defeated the New York Giants in 7 games. It's the first time in World Series history the winner has captured all World Series victories on the road. Looking back, this is crazier than that stat, Lewis. Looking back, on May 23rd, 2019, the Washington Nationals fell to the New York Mets, and their record dropped to 19-31. Back to 1995, beginning of the wild card era, only one team had posted a worse record through 50 games and made the postseason. That was the 2005 Astros at 18-32, who ended up making the World Series. It was the worst 50-game start of any team to win the World Series. The previous record was the 1914 Braves, who were 20-30 with one tie. Steven Strasburg, one of the big stories out of the World Series, Lewis. He's the first overall pick to be named World Series MVP, and rightfully so. In 2 starts in the World Series, he pitched 14 1/3 innings, 4 runs allowed with a 2.51 ERA, 14 strikeouts, 3 walks, 1 intentional walk to add on top of that. And he became the first pitcher to go 5-0 in a postseason. His Game 6 performance was one of the ages. 8 1/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, and 2 walks. Now, Lewis, Steven Strasburg opted out of his final 4 years, $100 million remaining on his deal. He would have been a UFA in 2024 at age 35. Ex-GM Jim Bowden predicted on Twitter that Strasburg will get a deal around 7 years and $210 million. Would you drop the cash on Strasburg to make him your ace, or add him to a pile of aces, kind of like what Houston had or even what they have in Washington, to push your team to that next level?
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. He showed how dominant he could be in the playoffs. He showed how dominant he could be in the World Series. He is one of those guys that if you're rotation needs an absolute shutdown guy, he showed that he could do it. And 7 years, $210 million, yeah, I would do that. Now, you know, we've talked about Bryce Harper before, and you know, he got that massive deal for $330 million. I wouldn't have paid him $330 million, to be honest with you. Bryce Harper, I'll pay him $210.
That's why you're not a general manager.
Yeah, it's very possible, but I mean, you know,
it's one of those things you got to pay to play. We know pitchers get less money than position players do, but I certainly think that speaking of Bryce Harper, guys like Bryce Harper and Manny Machado getting big contracts, one team that has been rumored to be in on Strasburg is the San Diego Padres, or are the San Diego Padres. He obviously played college in San Diego, or he played college baseball in San Diego, and there's rumors he may want to come back to Southern California, and that would be a great team to join up with because they're kind of, I believe, a year at least, if not two, away from relevancy. But Strasburg would definitely push that envelope a little, or pull the envelope a little closer, I should say. I mean, it's a lot of years, a lot of money for a guy who's on the wrong side of 30. But with that being said, I mean, we've seen it recently with guys like Justin Verlander, where you say, well, this guy's on the wrong side of 30, probably more towards the talent of his career, but he's still dominant.
Right.
And a guy like Steven Strasburg, who doesn't have a ton of miles on his arm, because obviously he had the Tommy John surgery, but also the Nationals were very, very specific about how they managed him when he first came up. The mileage he has is not as much as some other pitchers may have at this age. So that also could help out as well. You can't predict what's going to happen with a human body. You can't predict ball, that's for sure. But I'd be pretty comfortable offering him a deal like that. But then again, once you get the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees involved, potentially that deal can get thrown out the window and he could get a lot more money than that.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams out there trying to throw a whole lot of cash at him. And so it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Because there's going to be a couple big names on the market, and Strasburg is one of them. Cole's another one.
Another one to mention is Anthony Rendon, third baseman for the Nationals.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's going to get a lot of money.
You want a crazy stat about Anthony Rendon before we mention him really quick. Per MajorLeagueBaseball.com, as pointed out by Sam Fortier, of Washington Post, before Anthony Rendon flied out in the eighth inning of Game 7, he had come to the plate 7 times in the postseason in the seventh inning or later of an elimination game and had gone 6 for 6 with 3 doubles, 3 homers, and a walk. Now, Rendon, a pending unrestricted free agent, is projected by Bleacher Report to sign a deal around 8 years and $220 million. He was reportedly offered a 7-year deal worth $210 to $215 million back in September from the Nationals. That's per the Washington Post. But, Lewis, the big thing to remember here, Anthony Rendon's agent, Scott Boras, and we know Scott Boras will not let any of his players get a penny less than what they think they are worth. So I certainly think Rendon's going to cost a ton of cash, rightfully so. He's one of the best offensive third baseman in the league. He's one of the best defensive third basemen in the league. And, I mean, if the Nationals had to pick, I think the Nationals could probably re-sign both Strasburg and Rendon. But if they had to pick one or the other, I might lean more towards Rendon just because, I mean, pitching, it's hard to get a dominant shutdown pitcher, but they still have Patrick Corbin. They still have Max Scherzer. But I would say it's probably harder to get a really good bat like Rendon at the hot corner. Probably want to pay whatever it is, pay to play, keep him around in Washington, and see if you can't bring the magic back for another couple of years.
I agree with you. Rendon is a great talent, and finding a third baseman that can also mash sometimes is not easy. You know, you don't see a lot of great hitting third basemen out there. A lot of times they're awesome at defense and so at the plate. But if you can get a guy who can mash like him, then yeah, he'll definitely fetch some money on the market. Or the Phillies will throw him a ton of cash. Not the Phillies, the Nationals. I did that before too.
Yeah,
I don't know why I keep confusing those two teams.
the Phillies threw a lot of money at another Nationals player. I mean, what would be the difference? There are some thoughts there. There's a prevailing thought that maybe the Phillies would go after Strasburg, but again, it's the hot stove for a reason. Crazy stuff can happen. Normally, we know that even though free agency has begun, deals don't start happening until after the winter meetings or during the winter meetings in December. So the hot stove may be warming up, but right now it's kind of cool. So we'll see what happens. We'll obviously keep you guys posted here as the season goes on. Now, Lewis, as we always do, our second of the three big things this week, NFL Week 9 Rewind. We'll start off overseas in London with Houston taking on Jacksonville. Houston handles the Jacksonville Jaguars 26-3. Houston quarterback Deshaun Watson did what he needed to do. 22 of 28 passing, 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran 7 times for 37 yards. But the big performer of the week for Houston was running back Carlos Hyde, 19 carries for 160 yards, again in that 26-3 victory. Not much more to say here aside from the fact that Houston continues to do what they need to do. Even with the loss of J.J. Watt, they still easily handled the Jaguars and made Gardner Minshew look like a rookie.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. Which, Gardner Minshew is still one of those guys you're not sure just how good he's going to be. But they were also playing Houston, and when Watson puts up those type of numbers, it's going to be hard to beat a team that's you got your quarterback doing that type of stuff. And he's elusive. He ran 7 times for 37 yards. If he can get out the pocket and make you miss a couple tackles, he's going to make a play. And so, Houston is good. I like Houston. I like what they're doing.
Absolutely. Now, we don't usually talk about the Buffalo Bills here on the podcast, Lewis, obviously, because we have Trust the Podcast, and myself and John Cimino or Del Reed or whoever may be on the podcast that week will talk about it. But there is something that was said after the game that we're going to talk about and Trust the Podcast as well, but I want to get your thoughts on it. But first off, Buffalo defeats Washington 24-9. Buffalo, again, a very bad day on the run defense. They allowed 127 rushing yards, 5.5 yards per carry. They did have a very poor showing in the first half. Second half, they shut down Adrian Peterson. They made those adjustments that they needed to make. Devin Singletary, star of the game, 20 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown. He also had 3 receptions for 45 yards. But the reason, Lewis, I'm mentioning this on the podcast this week, Buffalo Bills safety Micah Hyde. Here's what he had to say after the game, and I quote, "A win's a win. As long as we continue to win, I'm not too worried about strength of schedule or any of that. We have a goal this year. It starts each and every week with getting a win. We got that this week, and as long as we continue to do that, you guys can continue to say that strength of schedule BS. It is what it is. I'm done apologizing for wins. We were 6-2. This time last year, we were 2-6. So, Lewis, my question for you, at what point in time do you look, because this also pertains to your Dallas Cowboys as well, who are leading the NFC East, but the quality of opponent has not been great. They've beaten teams that are bad, and that's really the story of the Buffalo Bills. So at what point in time do you stop saying, you know what, hey, the Buffalo Bills won, but it wasn't with any style points? And do you just say a win's a win's a win? They're 6-2, despite the fact that, I mean, they're clearly not showing a lot that would instill confidence. But at the end of the day, they get the win.
But you got to look at, the fact that they've won a couple of games where they clearly shouldn't. There was one game where the kicker missed a field goal at the end of the game with time running out, and they won by like a point. Then there was another game, I think it was against Carolina, where the kicker mixed 3.
Tennessee.
What'd you say?
It was Tennessee.
Tennessee, yes, thank you. Tennessee, the kicker missed 4 field goals. One of them was blocked, so I can't really include that one. But they missed 3 clean misses, and that right there is 9 points. They would have lost that game. So here's what I'm going to say about the Buffalo Bills. I don't think their offense is that great. However, their defense is legit. So to me, the defense has kind of been carrying that team. And
Well, it's funny you mentioned that the defense is legit because they did just sign Corey Lugitt from the of the Chargers and Oakland Raiders. Because again, that like you said, the offense has not done much to instill confidence. In many people, and you look at the wins and you say, yeah, it was a win, but I mean, I don't want to put the rose-colored glasses on and sit here and say, Josh Allen is getting better. I mean, he's shown signs of growth, but
right.
I like what they did last week where they say they rode the hot hand, but I clearly think that they realize they need to get Devin Singletary more involved because he helps. It's like the butter to the offense's toast, if you will, where he allows things to flow better. And it seemed like when he was in the game, the offense just flowed better. He was able to break off some nice runs. Obviously, had a couple or 3 receptions, like we said, for 45 yards. He just looked good. He made that offense feel a little more complete. And maybe that'll change in the coming weeks. We'll see. I mean, the Buffalo Bills, despite the fact that they are 6-2 and their opponent's not good record-wise, still a tough game this weekend in Cleveland. But they play Cleveland, Miami, Denver, and then they have Dallas, Baltimore. So they've got to start collecting some wins because they've got a couple of tough games coming up. But again, I don't want to pull the rose-colored glasses over my eyes and say a win's a win's a win because I know it is. But clearly, being a fan outside or inside looking out, it's not been promising to see them winning games the way they are. But then again, good teams always find ways to win. So if they get challenged in, the AFC wildcard game by playing, Kansas City or Baltimore, you would hope they would be able to find that way to win, but they haven't instilled much confidence in that ability. But then again, I guess, like I said, me being a Bills fan, I know how they've been for the last 25 years or so. So there isn't much confidence coming in anyways.
I understand what you're saying. They're going to beat Cleveland. I'm pretty confident in that. I believe they'll probably beat Miami unless they end up looking like the Jets from this past week and Miami just steamrolls over them, which I was kind of surprised by. And yes, John, Miami beat the Jets and Dallas Cowboys lost to the Jets. I get it. You're going to make those jokes. It's okay.
Well, and rightfully so.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a Cowboys fan. They lost to the freaking Jets. That's terrible. That's embarrassing. That should never have happened. But at the same token, the Bills played Washington this week, and Washington is not a good team.
But when you see the Bills kind of just go into cruise control or disappear for a quarter or two, it's not good.
No, and I don't think they're going to beat Baltimore, and I don't think they're going to beat Dallas. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, you talk about they haven't faced anybody yet, and you can say that about a lot of teams in the league. I mean, look what I don't. Let's see. Let me before I get into it. Are we going to get into it later on in this podcast?
Yeah, we'll talk about the Patriots and Ravens later on.
Yeah. So I'll make my point.
Let's put it this way: there are good teams in the league this year. Cowboys being one of them. You don't know if they're good or bad because they've lost to the Jets, obviously. Embarrassing or not, it is what it is. They lost to the Jets, but they also lost to the Jets, and they lost to the Jets too. But their strength of victory has not been great.
Did they lose to the Jets?
I'm pretty sure they did. But the strength of victory has not been good. But again, you look on the one side. This is where I'm kind of struggling as a not only a sports fan but like a writer as well and a podcaster as well. Is I know like a fan can just say they won. I don't care how it happened. They won. That's the fan side. But then the writer and podcaster side, I look at it and go, okay, they won, but it didn't look good. The run defense is getting gashed. Josh Allen is still putting the ball on the ground, not making great decisions, whatever it may be, whatever, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of where I'm stuck, That's kind of why I brought this up, because I agree. A win's a win, but I also feel like I'm being very naive if I say that.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I mean, a win is, will you get to the playoffs? It's very possible. I don't see how you're not going to make the playoffs.
Well, you get to the playoffs. It's very possible, but then it's also very possible you'll have another Jaguars-Bills playoff game where the Bills look like they didn't know what organized football was before the game had begun.
Right, and that's very possible that can happen. I don't think the Bills are a Super Bowl team at all.
Crazier things have happened, but I would have to agree with you.
I don't think they're. I think they're going to get to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to progress very far in the playoffs.
We'll have to see the matchups. But
at the same token, I feel the same way about my team. I think my team's going to make the playoffs, but if they play like they have against certain teams, they're not going to go anywhere.
That's fair. Hey, speaking of good teams who might go somewhere, two good teams played against each other this week. Kansas City defeated Minnesota 26-23. Kansas City quarterback Matt Moore, 25 of 35, 275 yards and one touchdown. Lewis, the only thing I have to say about that, and then we can move on to the kicker, who was the player of the game. Clearly, future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes is a system quarterback. We now know that after Matt Moore comes off the couch in retirement and lights it up. I'm only kidding because I think Patrick Mahomes is not a system quarterback, but it's a Tom Brady thing. When Matt Castle came in and succeeded, oh, Brady's a system quarterback. Oh, Mahomes must be too. Anyways, Kansas City kicker Harrison Butker nailed a 44-yard field goal with time expiring. He ended the day, Lewis, 4 for 4 on field goals, at 24, a 45, a 54, and that game-winning 44-yard field goal with time expiring. Great day for him. Great day for Kansas City. They get back into the swing of things, and it looks like that Patrick Mahomes may return to the starting lineup for Kansas City this coming up week. So, again, good things are happening for Kansas City, and Minnesota didn't look that bad in the loss. They're still a very talented team. Speaking of potentially talented teams, Carolina, the Panthers defeated Tennessee 30-20. Lewis, your update, your MVP watch. MVP watch. Carolina Panthers running back, Christian McCaffrey, 24 carries, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns, as well as 3 receptions for 20 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, right now, as we speak, as we do the podcast, McCaffrey is currently at 165 carries, 881 yards, 10 touchdowns with 42 receptions, 363 yards, and 3 touchdowns. McCaffrey this season, right now, as per ESPN.com, projected for 1,762 rushing yards, 20 touchdowns with 84 receptions, 726 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Now, Lewis, if you're still following me here, there's a test at the end. McCaffrey currently has 246.40 points in a standard Yahoo PPR league. ESPN.com has him at a season-long projection of 488.8 fantasy points. That's a big number. I'll tell you why in a second. LaDainian Tomlinson's 2006 season, widely regarded as one of the greatest fantasy football seasons in the history of fantasy football. He had 815 yards and 31 combined touchdowns, which put him at a 483.1 points in a PPR league. So right now, Christian McCaffrey is projected to have more points this season than LaDainian Tomlinson did in his 2006 season. Me personally, I find that nuts, crazy, out of this world. Christian McCaffrey is having a season for the ages.
No, you know what? Absolutely. I mean, we had talked about this. We've talked about this just about every week, and I wasn't sold a couple of weeks ago that he might be an MVP, but now I absolutely am. He absolutely might be an MVP worthy candidate. And to have 24 carries at 146 yards and two TDs, I got that out there finally, plus 3 receptions for 20 yards and another TD, that's a hell of a game. I mean, that's a terrific game. That's a lot of fantasy football points right there. So whoever has him on their team, well, that's fantastic and good for you.
Thank you. I can confirm in the Wolfe and Center Football League that I drafted Christian McCaffrey, and boy, am I thrilled.
How many points did he get for you on Sunday?
Let me pull up the Yahoo Fantasy Sports app, looking at the Wolfe and Center Football League. Actually, I am 8-1, and right now everyone else is no better than 5-4. So I am rolling.
You're killing it.
You. I appreciate that. Last week, Christian McCaffrey scored 37.6 points.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So
the second week of the season, McCaffrey scored 7.3 points. If you take that game out, well, aside from week 2 where he scored 7.3 points, he has not scored less than 21.7 points in a week.
And that's the kind of guy you want on your fantasy football team.
Yeah, that absolutely is.
So that's fantastic. Good for him. I'm glad he's having that type of year. It's fun to watch. So that's awesome.
Now, we'll have more news on Carolina here in just a few minutes, but I do want to move over to Seattle talking about another potential fantasy gem, or not a potential fantasy gem, a confirmed fantasy gem, a potential MVP candidate, Russell Wilson. Seattle defeats Tampa Bay 40-34 in overtime. Russell Wilson, 29 for 43, 378 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 rush for 21 yards. Now, I didn't grab the stat because apparently I just lost my train of thought here when I was coming up with the podcast. I know Russell Wilson leads the National Football League in touchdown passes, but my sentence here says Wilson leads the NFL with. That's it. So I'm looking the stats up right now. Give me just a moment here. Touchdown passes. Russell Wilson leads the NFL with 22 touchdown passes. He has a 22-1 touchdown to interception ratio, doing pretty damn good for himself out in Seattle. And it seems like they finally took the reins off of him, which is insane because he's such a good quarterback. But I digress. Seattle looks good again. Despite allowing 34 points, they score 40. They get the win. Good for them.
Yeah, that was a heck of a game. And when you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson, why are you putting any type of reins on that guy? Let Russell Wilson be Russell Wilson. I mean, first of all, throwing for 43 attempts in a game is a lot. But when you're putting up 378 yards with 5 TDs, okay, do you. You know, and he's not the fastest guy, but he broke out for that 1 rush for 21 yards. That helps. He's a smart. It's like he's a smart runner. He doesn't force it. He knows when he's got to run. He knows what he's got to do, and he has enough gas in the tank to make it happen. Absolutely, he's a great quarterback.
I don't disagree there.
Any team would be lucky to have him on their team.
He's a great quarterback, but he definitely should have handed it off at the 1-yard line.
Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely.
Now, speaking of shocking finishes, that Super Bowl being one of them, another one this week, Green Bay. They fell to the Chargers, 26-11. Now, after the game, first off, during the game, Aaron Rodgers only had 161 passing yards. That's the 5th lowest total in his career when he's played all 4 quarters of a game. After the game, he said, quote, "This was a good slice of humble pie for us. We're kind of rolling 7-1 and starting to listen to the chatter maybe a little too much." You know, Aaron Rodgers did leave kind of an open door by hinting that they got in a day early to acclimate to the weather, to the time change, and that some people may have taken advantage of that. But Matt LaFleur, the head coach, said nobody missed curfew. But then again, doesn't matter if you miss curfew if you're incredibly hungover, whatever it may be, or whatever was going on there. Something was clearly going on because the Green Bay Packers looked like they were stuck in concrete the entire game. But
they did.
It happens. These are the kind of games that humble you, like Aaron Rodgers said, and you come back. It's kind of make or break. They're a very good team this year. They've got a very good record, but it's one of those things where either you get better as a team or you continue just to take a step back. And this was like the peak of your season, like the mid range of the story, and everything's downhill from here. Either way, we'll see. But a very weird game in Los Angeles this week.
It was a weird game, but I think. Excuse me.
Don't die on me here.
I think that they're I don't think that the Packers are, I don't know, they're a good team. I think he's right. They might have been listening to the chatter too much because, frankly, and once again, I'm going to go back to the Dallas Cowboys. They beat the Cowboys, but they should have lost that game. Cowboys didn't take the reins off their team until the 4th quarter. They scored 21 points on them in the 4th quarter. If they had played like that the whole game, they would have beat Green Bay. So we'll see what happens with Green Bay. You can't listen to your own hype.
Well, I wonder if the humble pie comment was just to kind of pull the blanket over the fact that, you know, maybe some guys took advantage of the fact that they were in Southern California.
Maybe. It's very possible.
It's like the Vegas flu, my man. You know, it's like the Vegas flu. The first handful of years, why was Vegas so good at home? Vegas flu. People come in and they go, oh, let's go party on the Strip. Wake up the next day, oh my God, I feel like hell, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
Now, moving on to the game of the week, Baltimore defeats New England 37-20. Another MVP candidate, Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson, 17 for 23, 161 yards and 1 touchdown. He had 16 rushes for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Baltimore defense, 2 sacks, 5 pass deflections, 10 quarterback hits, 1 interception, and a 70-yard fumble return for a touchdown. It's New England's first loss of the season at 8-1, snaps a 13-game winning streak, which includes the playoffs. The Patriots are going to be fine, but this game could be a potential AFC Championship game matchup. So sign me up for that because it was a crazy back and forth game. It seemed like once New England took a shot, Baltimore answered right back and vice versa, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It was really, really fun to watch. But I definitely think Lamar Jackson is in that conversation with Russell Wilson, with Christian McCaffrey as a potential MVP in the league. And really, he's got no one but Greg Roman to thank for that one because the man who took Colin Kaepernick and built the great offense around him came to Buffalo, built a good offense around Tyrod Taylor, and then got ousted in Buffalo. And then he goes to Baltimore. They get Lamar Jackson. Look what they're doing. I mean, the offensive mind that is Greg Roman, he's very, very good with quarterbacks like this. And I really think that the Ravens are not necessarily – I mean, it feels like they're doing something kind of outside the box with Lamar Jackson. And by that, really, it's just that they've built an offense around him and allowed him to be the player that he is and ultimately play to his strengths.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're obviously not missing Joe Flacco.
I don't think I forgot about Joe Flacco. I mean, he went to Denver. He got hurt. He got called out his coaches, and then he has a disc issue in his neck, and now he's out for the year. I mean, he probably won't play in Denver ever again in the league. He'll probably get a job somewhere, but I think he's probably done in Denver.
Probably, I agree with you.
Is Joe Flacco elite?
Is Joe Flacco elite?
Yeah.
No,
he's a punk bitch. Anyway.
I've never thought he was elite. I thought he was a good quarterback. Never thought he was elite.
He looks like Bert. He had that unibrow for too long. Made me uncomfortable.
That's a true story.
Made me real uncomfortable. Bro, you're a grown man. Shave that shit off.
So you must not like the Browns in the NBA.
Yeah. Anthony Davis is fine because he probably could dunk on me. Put me on a poster. I don't want that. That's
Anthony Davis can dunk on a whole lot of people.
That's embarrassing. I don't need that for my portfolio. What's Joe Flacco going to do? Go to hit me with a football and get it intercepted? Nah.
Probably.
Punk bitch. Anyways.
Back to what we were talking about.
Hell yeah. So, welcome back to the podcast.
New England got punched in the mouth and they lost the game.
They just made too many mistakes. It seems like every time it almost seems like every time they had momentum, they pulled the rug out from under themselves.
I agree. But I also think that as the season is progressing, Brady's starting to look old. Because
he's still there was a stat today. Let me pull this stat out here. Hold on a second. My brother.
He's got great numbers. I just don't think he's as sharp as he used to be.
I mean, he's old. Yeah, he's not going to be as sharp as he was when he was younger or even a couple years ago. But here's the thing. Right now, thanks to my brother for pointing this out, Brady has the second most passing yards in the NFL. He has 14 touchdowns and 5 picks. He's on pace for 4,500 plus yards, 25 plus touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. It would be a top 10 or a top 7 season out of all 20 seasons he's played at 42. That's unreal.
Yeah, that is unreal. But he looks 42, which is kind of scary that he's having that kind of a good season. No. I mean, I look good for a 46-year-old. So, but
stop trying to pump your own tires here in a podcast.
Hey, listen, I look fat. Other than being fat,
don't make me mute your microphone.
I was sexy 46-year-old.
Jesus Christ.
But I just don't have the money that Brady does.
You got to save that for BLTD after dark. Don't need you talking about yourself like that in front of these children.
Sorry, kids.
What the fuck?
So The question now is, have we seen who the real Patriots are?
The question is, no, I don't even think that's the question. It's because you know they're good. It's how do they respond? Because they're probably going to play Baltimore again in January, December, January, whatever the playoffs are. I don't remember. They'll play them again, most likely. So how do they respond? That's the question.
Well, I mean, there's a good chance that we see them beat up on some teams in the next couple of weeks. That's normally how they used to respond.
Sure. Absolutely. There's a potential that they could go out and whoop some ass and finish 15-1 or 13-2. No problem there. But again, they'll probably, I mean, looking at, we'll talk about it in a minute. The playoff rankings and how everything works out, but I don't want to get too far down that hill because we've got some other news to cover here in just a moment, but there's a potential they could play again, and it's how New England responds, in my personal opinion, as to how that'll work out. But on to some other NFL news, Lewis. Our third of the three big things this week. Carolina officially ends the season of quarterback Cam Newton, placed on the injured reserve with a Lisfranc injury in his foot. I think, my personal opinion, we've seen the last of Cam Newton in Carolina.
I agree. 100%. I agree.
I believe if they cut him, I mean, they said they could trade him. Someone on a podcast that I was listening to around the NFL, I believe it was, talking about how it's more valuable to Carolina to try to trade him because he's still relatively cost controlled in comparison to other quarterbacks. He's making $18 million or something next year. If they cut him, they say it only costs like $2 million to cut him, and they'd save around $19 or so million. But it seems like the physical game that Cam Newton has played has caught up to him. I know the Lisfranc injury is pretty severe, especially for a guy who really relies on his ability to run and extend the play. Right. And we saw how he looked earlier this season. He did not look good because he could not run around. Plus, is his shoulder fried? We don't know. He's had multiple surgeries on that. So maybe a season off for him is a good thing. Maybe he'll come back in camp motivated, ready to go. But I'm not sure if his motivated and ready to go self will be in Carolina.
No, I agree. A season off might do him some real good. I mean,
isn't he also like 30? I think he's 31 too. So he's definitely. I know I said about baseball the wrong side of 30, but when you're a physical quarterback and you are the way you beat your body up at 31, it might the better days might be out. It might not be too good for him.
Absolutely, because if you take a look at someone like Cam Newton, who's suffering through these injuries at 31, and then the quarterback we were just talking about, Tom Brady at 42, you know, Brady's still looking real strong. He hasn't had the injuries that Cam Newton has had.
It reminds me of Brett Favre. Whenever Brett Favre would go out and it was like he could get hit by a dump truck and he gets back up and he's like, I'm fine. My arm's hanging off, but I'm fine. No, you're not fine, buddy.
Right. So the physical play probably has taken its toll. I mean, I feel whenever you're in a sport like this and you play it the way Cam Newton did, it was fun to watch, but you knew it was going to suffer later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cam Newton has suffered a ton, especially in Carolina. Now, running through some other news here because there are some big stories. I honestly don't
think Cam Newton's been 100% healthy since he flipped his truck.
I don't think he's been 100% healthy for a while, but we'll have to see how he returns for sure. Keep an eye on it. We will, for sure, especially with Kyle Allen taking over the reins of that team and Christian McCaffrey being dope as hell. We'll see how that works out for him. Indianapolis quarterback Jacoby Brissett sprained MCL, suffered in the loss against Pittsburgh on Sunday. He might return this weekend against Miami, but no timetable has been determined as I saw recently as I've seen, I should say. Philadelphia wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, out 6 weeks, will undergo core muscle surgery, was placed on the IR and eligible to return for wildcard weekend. Jacksonville quarterback Nick Foles. Nick Foles will return to the starting lineup after the bye week. Head coach Doug Marrone announced on Tuesday. Gardner Minshew will go back to the bench. Now, Lewis, I'm going to switch the stories around here because I think the Cleveland story is better than the Los Angeles story. The Athletic is reporting the NFL has, quote, broached the idea of moving the Chargers to London, quote. The Athletic also learned while the team is fully committed to Los Angeles, where it will move into the new $4.5 billion stadium with the Rams next year, the Chargers would at least listen if the NFL approached them about London as a possible option. It would fix the NFL's wanting to move a team abroad issue. It would also fix the Chargers' awkward fit in Los Angeles. They could do like long homestands coupled with long road trips. There's also a potential that the Chargers could swap divisions with Houston and move to the AFC South, or you could have Miami go to the South, Texans go to the West, and then the Chargers move to the East. But owner Dean Spanos, this is the best part of the story, Lewis, says the rumors are, quote, total fucking bullshit. And then shortly after those tweets came out, the Chargers posted the clip from Wolf of Wall Street where Leo DiCaprio was saying, I'm not fucking leaving. So
right.
Clearly they think they say no. But the story of the week, Lewis, the story of the week. Cleveland falls to Denver 24-19. That's not the big story. At Dustin Fox on Twitter tweeted, quote, Whitehead's effort tackling today is a joke. Jermaine Whitehead, Cleveland Browns starting safety, responded, quote, here we go. Come get it in blood, bitch-made ass little boy. I'm out there with a broke hand. Don't get smoked, fuck-ass cracker. Whitehead also threatened another user, quote, I'ma kill you, bitch. That's on blood. Cleveland responded by cutting Whitehead on Monday morning.
Well, you can't be out there just threatening to kill someone. That's probably a pretty terrible idea.
I mean,
as he found out, because now he doesn't have a job.
Never in the history of Better Live Than Dead did I think I would utter the words, don't get smoked, fuck-ass cracker. But I have.
You just did.
And that's for real.
History.
That's for real, and that's not going anywhere.
No, it's not.
So if people are still listening, they'll have that clip forever.
I'm assuming the guy he was talking to was white.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. You did two things there. You made a racial slur, which is never a good look.
I don't want to get too political here because it's a sports podcast, but cracker is not that bad.
No, it's really not. And I don't, like if you call, like if I was to call you a cracker, like first of all, you would know I was joking.
I'd smack you in the face with a wet Ritz cracker and say, bitch, who's a cracker now?
Right. And I'd laugh because a wet Ritz cracker would probably suck to be hit in the face with. But so you made a racial slur, technically.
This podcast is wobbling off the tracks right now.
And then you threaten to kill someone. I'm gonna kill you, bitch. That's on blood. You can't do that.
No, you can't.
I get it.
But he did. You can't do it, Lewis. You can't do it. But he did.
Like, I get it. You're upset. Your team's not playing up the expectations. The guys kind of suck. Not as bad as you did, but you still kind of suck. So I get it. And let's be honest, fans can be brutal online.
Well, yeah, they're the keyboard warriors. Anybody in front of a keyboard, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They'll say whatever they want.
But, you can't then threaten people. If you want to call people a cracker, go ahead. I don't care. That's funny to me. Makes me chuckle. But at the same token, yeah, you lost your job. No kidding. You threatened to kill
job,
someone.
you dummy. Anyways,
that's where I'm going to keep going back to.
Yeah, right. Looking ahead now. The playoff picture. In the AFC, we have got 1 through 6, New England, Baltimore, Houston, Kansas City, Buffalo, Indiana. In the NFC, San Francisco, New Orleans, Green Bay, Dallas, Seattle, and Minnesota. Looking forward to Week 10, the top matchups. There are 4 games we're keeping our eyes on. First off, Chargers and Raiders. Chargers are 4-5. Raiders are 4-4. You ask why it's important. AFC wildcard implications, my man. Buffalo 6-2. Indianapolis 5-3. This game could certainly swing things in the wildcard race just a little, one way or the other. Got Carolina at 5-3, heading into Green Bay. Green Bay 7-2. The Rams take on the Steelers. Rams are 5-3. Steelers are 4-4. And the game of the week, in my humble opinion, Minnesota 6-3 versus Dallas 5-3. Can Dallas finally beat a good team and get themselves proven to the rest of the league that they aren't a bunch of chumps?
I'm going to say this. No. I don't think they're going to beat Minnesota. I predicted Minnesota to go to the Super Bowl for a reason. I don't think Dallas is going to be able to stay with them. Would I like to see them win? Absolutely. I prefer my team to be at 6-3 than 5-4. But I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a fun game. But ultimately, I think Minnesota's going to pull that off. I don't think Buffalo's going to beat Indianapolis either.
You said Buffalo. You don't think Buffalo's going to beat Indianapolis?
Who are they playing this week?
You're killing me, dude. Buffalo plays Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, they play Cleveland. We already talked about that. Never mind.
Good God. Where you been?
I've been here the entire time.
That's okay. Well, good news is, we're good with the podcast. Podcast is all set. Everything's good. This was a lot of fun.
Hold on a second. Before we end, I need to ask a question.
Well, I'm not done yet. I was going to say, I'm headed to Cleveland this weekend with my wife. We're going to the Bills-Browns game, so I'll have a report back from that. We'll see how that goes. Cool. But your question.
That'll be fun. Are you going to wear Bills stuff?
So much Bills stuff.
You'll be rocking all the Bills stuff?
Hell yeah. Now, what was your question? I'm ready.
Who is San Fran playing this week?
San Francisco this week, they will be playing. Popping my phone up here. They play the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. I don't know how I missed that. That's also probably the game of the week, but I missed that one. That's a good game too.
Yes, because San Fran is still undefeated.
Yep.
They're 8-0. So now you want to talk about Minnesota Dallas, who's the real team. We will see if San Fran is as good as advertised in this game.
I think they are. I mean, even if they lose, they're still a pretty goddamn good football team.
They are. Absolutely. Their defense is incredible. Their offense has been clicking. I don't think they're going to beat Seattle.
I don't think so either. I mean, I think that Seattle is freaking good.
Yes.
Either way, it's going to be one of those games that's going to be hell of a time to watch.
Absolutely. San Fran's been looking incredible.
I agree. Sorry, I had to burp there. I apologize.
It's all good, bro.
With that being said, though, Luis at MRLG Perez, myself at Wolfe BLTD. I got nothing else. So, with that being said,
that's all right, cracker.
Thanks, dickhead. We are better live than dead.
You're not.
I'm kidding, Luis. I love you, man.
Love you too, bro.
We will catch you sometime very soon. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. See you later.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.